Hello, welcome back. I strongly believe you all know how to use SQL Server in on-premise environment. So if you want to use SQL Server in on-premise environment, that means in your laptop or in your server room, you have some option. Either you could go for paid version of SQL Server, that is Enterprise or Standard Edition, or you could use free version of SQL Server. There are two versions you could use freely from SQL Server, that is Express Edition and Developer Edition. And I strongly believe you know how to install SQL Server in on-premise environment and how to use it. Now we are going to focus on cloud version. So if you are using cloud version of SQL Server, that means if you are using Azure environment, you have two options. One is PaaS. So inside PaaS, you could either use Azure SQL service or managed instance. Then IaaS service are there, infrastructure as a service. So in the case of infrastructure as a service, you could launch a virtual machine or you could create a virtual machine, and within the virtual machine you could install SQL Server. So in this module we are going to focus on how to use Azure SQL. So if you are using Azure SQL, you could create database in cloud. So first we will create a server in Azure or a virtual server, and within the virtual server you could create one or more databases. So this virtual machine will act as a logical server, and by using this logical server you could control user authentication and firewall settings. And once you launch this Azure SQL, by using SQL Server Management Studio, you could connect to Azure SQL. So instead of your laptop server name or your desktop server name, you could use Azure SQL server name, and instead of this login name, you could use Azure SQL login name and password. So let's see how we could launch a SQL server.